From Wall Street to Main Street to help small business owners have the same capital as corporate America and give them the same resources as a larger company. We cover business funding, business credit, scaling, business consulting, and much more. Check out the website at shieldadvisorygroup.com. Welcome to the show, The Liquid Lunch Project.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Liquid Lunch Project. I am Matthew R. Meehan, alongside my partner, the Professor Luigi Rosabianca. What's on tap today, Lou?
Matt, us small business owners, if we're selling a product or a service, the most difficult thing in our daily regimen is building and nurturing a sales team. I can't think of anything that is more difficult than that. So today we have the expert. He has a podcast and a course aptly named Building Great Sales Teams. So Doug Mitchell, welcome to the podcast. Tell us, please, everyone is raptured. We're dying to know, what is the key to building great sales teams?
Well, first off, thanks, fellas, for having me on the show. It's an absolute honor to be on y'all's show. You guys are crushing it. So building great sales teams, documentation to me is the key, right? It's not sexy, it's boring, but it's what builds businesses. So why wouldn't it be what builds sales teams? So the 5 things that I look at, I call it CODAC. If you look up hashtag CODAC, you'll see a ton of posts from me. And it's compensation, opportunity, development, operations, and culture. And so I have a document-based approach to building sales teams. And all of those documents support those tenets of CODAC. So when you look at the comp plan, right, can they make 6 figures? Is it in writing? Is it plain? Is it simple? Are they able to scale to that 6-figure point? Also, is it showing me how I can bring in other people, maybe make some training pay, some overrides, to expand the team, right? And so you got to show them what's possible in terms of income, but also what's possible in terms of opportunity, which is the second tenet, which is where an opportunity structure comes in. One of my favorite documents. This is showing them, okay, when you come into the company, you're at this, you're at this level, maybe at a rookie, and then this is how you get promoted to sales rep. These are the qualifications. This is the training that you have to go through. And it does. This opportunity structure forces the business owner to look at, okay, I'm investing in their product knowledge. I'm investing in their sales training. Maybe I'm even along that opportunity ladder. Maybe I'm even investing in their leadership training. But what could I also be investing in? The stuff that you guys teach all the time, which is, all right, if I'm a 1099 salesperson, well, I need to know how to open up an LLC. I need to understand taxes. I need to understand investing. I need to understand mindset. All these things that 1099 salespeople, they need to become mini business owners in their own right. And when you invest in them that way, they're going to continue to invest in your company. They're going to continue to sell out for your company, right? And so that's the development piece where you're developing them along that opportunity structure. And then the 4th tenet is operations. And so many people spend so much time on the fulfillment of the product, but they don't spend enough time on recruiting, on onboarding, and on their training structure. So the systems that go into that are incredibly important in making sure that your sales team is running smoothly. The last one, probably the most important one, is going to be culture. So if you're operating well on those first 4 tenets, then culture is going to happen naturally, organically, and but it still has to be intentional. You actually have to have, a written out intention to your culture, which is, obviously team nights. You're going to have competitions going on, gamification of sales numbers. You're going to have bonuses, and they should be proud of the company they work for. It should be all over them. They should have the shirts, the hats, the wristbands with your mission statement on it. Those things are incredibly important when you're building the sales teams. Those 5 tenets there, CODAC.
Doug, when you're assessing a company and their sales team, do you find there's a deviation in when a sales team is focusing on a product versus a service, or are those 5 tenets consistent?
Those 5 tenets are consistent whether it's a product or a service. And it's because when you look at the investment in the sales rep in terms of the product knowledge or the knowledge of the service, it's essentially the same thing. As long as there's well thought out training on it, and you're continuing to invest in all those tenants, you're going to be able to scale that sales team, product or service.
Okay, so you gave us the playbook,
Mhm.
but I think there's got to be a little bit of coaching, right? Because you've got some really good athletes that need less
Right.
coaching. They're self-motivated. And then
Mhm.
you've got, let's call them the athletes that need a little bit more of that tough love and the Bill Belichick approach.
Yeah.
How do you infuse your CODAC system with that hand holding that inevitably is necessary?
Yeah, so obviously at an entry level, I have a lot of free information that I put out there. If you follow me on social media, it's TXBizDad at all social media. If you follow me there, you're gonna get that free game essentially. And I give it away. Everything that I'm telling you guys, like I have at some point talked about on my podcast in terms of the document structure or shown somebody a visual of it, like you got to give it away. But if you want it nice in a nice fancy package all together, you'd go to the course for that, right? And then I have a lot of people reach out and they're like, hey, I'm a CEO. I've got a $5 million roofing company and I have issues recruiting. So I go through an audit with them and I realize, hey, you don't have a recruiting program in place. You don't have an opportunity slide deck. You don't have an opportunity structure. You don't have a well thought out comp plan. So these things on the front end of scaling the sales team aren't put in place. If you'd like me to put those in place, then I can do that through consulting, or you can go to the course and pull it from there and then put those things in place. But if you don't have an integrator in your business that can do that, typically the visionary, the CEO is not going to be able to put that together or have the time to because they're running a $5 million roofing company. So that's where I come in with the one-on-one consulting.
So, Doug, we know each other for a while now, right? We've been to Cabo together. I had the privilege of seeing you and your wife get engaged. That was awesome. And you decided to bring this to the masses, but you just didn't come out as a coach. You've been doing this for years. So why don't you tell the audience a little bit more about your background, because you built
Yeah.
multi-million-dollar businesses, and not in the easiest realm. And the hardest to me, you built major sales teams door knocking. So let's talk about that a little bit.
So, I was your typical entrepreneur. I got fired from the first 20 jobs I had. The only time that I really found my place was working for another entrepreneur. And so I started working for my previous partner and my last boss. And he sold collectible gold over the phone. He also had an industrial staffing company. He had a youth ministry for his church. And then another thing that he started was a door-to-door sales company that sold for AT&T. So these are the annoying guys that knock on your door and bother you when you're making your dinner or you're busy watching the game or whatever the case is, right? And so he starts this company, dumps about 200 grand into it. And another salesperson convinced him to start it and that they would manage it and they would build it for him, right? Well, they dipped about 6 months in. And so he's like, I've done 200 grand into this, all the legal agreements, all the documents. I've got the AT&T contract. I've got the offices. I've even got some of the salespeople. He's like, can you step in and take over? I just want to see what you can do with it. So he gave me that opportunity to be the man at the company, right? And it was weird because I came in at the top. In most companies, you want someone that started at the bottom, that they were a door-to-door sales rep at one point. But I came in at the top, so immediately, what did I do? I went out and started knocking doors. I did that for 90 days. I broke all the sales records. I did all that stuff, and it wasn't because I was a good salesperson. It's because I followed the script. I was given a script, and I followed it, and I executed. I did work harder than anybody else, longer hours, and eventually, we got it back to black. We started making a profit. And so he's like, okay, I'm going to sell this company. He put it on the market, wasn't able to sell it. It's a door-to-door sales company. Who is going to want that without having to knock doors themselves? It doesn't make any sense. And so he's like, look, I dumped 200 grand into it. If you want this, you can have it. You just pay me my 200 grand back over time. And based on the numbers that you're doing right now, we could set this out 30 years, do a balloon payment in a couple of years, and then you can kind of go from there. And I'm like, I'm down. Like I had been looking for something to sink my teeth into. Working from him taught me a lot, different aspects of the business, marketing, sales, operations. And so one of the first things I did was I got rid of probably half my sales team because they were too busy just like smoking weed in the car instead of knocking doors, right? So I immediately cut them loose, and it was just me and another sales manager. He was in Houston, I was in Corpus Christi, and and this was a natural gift and ability of mine. Everybody has something, right? And this was mine. I was very good at systems, and I didn't even know I was building them when I started building them. It just made sense in my head. Hey, if I'm going to bring people into this company and tell them, hey, you can make 50, 60, 70 grand a year knocking doors, then I need to show them how. But I'm a visual learner. So I started putting together these documents, the script, the opportunity structure, overcoming objections, how to run a meeting, how to do an interview with a salesperson. I started documenting SOP and everything. I didn't even know what an SOP was back then, but I just needed to write it down. So when I showed my sales manager how to do something, he had something to go off of. He had instructions, you know. And fast forward 3 years later, we were at 4.8 million in commissions, 110 sales reps, 13 offices, and I had made it, right? And so that's how I scaled the business, was through those systems, those documents that I'm teaching on today. The rest of my career, it was 13 years, 13 years that Argenta Field Solutions was the company name. 13 years that I was running that company. I had basically figured out, after I reached that peak, how to put the company on autopilot, still do about 2.5 to 3 million a year. And then around comes 2021, and that's when you and I met in that mastermind, and I was just starting to realize, hey, I have something here. A lot of people aren't able to build sales teams like this. They're coming to me for advice, and I really enjoyed helping them, and I did it. And at that time, we were just building relationships, so I was doing it for free. It's like we were just having a conversation at an event, or we were jumping on a call after that. It didn't matter what it was. Like, I enjoyed my time with these other business owners, helping them with their sales teams more than I did in my own business, because I had been doing it for so long. And I honestly was just bored with it. There was nothing exciting and no challenge to it for me anymore, other than dealing with the client, AT&T, Vivint, DirecTV, all the clients that we had at the time. And so I started bringing leadership up and paying them more and cutting them into the bottom line, and started putting people in place to where they felt like if they grew it, they would get paid along the way, and that their investment was worth it, right? And then I found core values, and then I found, more of my purpose, and me and my wife reconciled, and I started holding this core value line that I never really held before. And so the issue with that became, I built my business without core values. It was just on success, materialism, money, titles. And so when you build a business like that, as soon as you don't have the success or don't have the money or have a bad paycheck, then what are guys doing? They're looking around at another company with higher commissions. And this was right around the time that solar came around. So I adapted to the marketplace. I started a solar company, and we did okay. I think we ended at like 700,000 or 800,000. We were doing another 1.5 million with AT&T. And I came to realize that my leadership just didn't have the same values I did. They weren't making good decisions, and we kept butting heads. And at this time, I had already collected $100K in consulting fees. I was already starting this new business and loving it, so it wasn't a hard decision for me. I set those leaders up with their own contracts. And, on the solar side, I basically gave him the sales teams, and I walked away from the business completely.
Wow. Very similar to my story when I was on Wall Street, almost to the T, So transitioning from building teams and having everybody, and then starting out by yourself again, consulting, how is that transition? Because now you don't have that framework that you had anymore. You had it in your head, but you didn't have it, somebody to turn to every time you needed something, especially in the beginning.
Yeah, and it is different now. I have my producer for the podcast. He's full time, and then I have 2 VAs. Right, that's my whole team right now. So there is no getting on a L10 call. We run the EOS. We run EOS model. I've done it the past 5 years. I love EOS. There is no getting on an L10 call and simply delegating everything and being the true visionary and the integrator in the company. Now it's like, okay, 2/3 of those to-dos are mine. 2/3 of those rocks are mine. Like, I got to go in and do that work. I'm I'm enjoying it because it's like starting a brand new business, and us visionaries, I'm a hybrid, but visionaries in general, we love doing that shit. We love starting new shit. You know what I'm saying? So I I really enjoyed it, especially the first, I think, like I said, in January, I collected 100K in consulting fees. I was like, I already have a 7-figure business in consulting, right? It was in my head already. I'm like, I'm crushing it. This is how it's going to be. And then turns out you got to deliver for those 100K in fees, right? So you're too busy working on the business. I'm sorry, working in the business, and you forget to sell. You forget to market. So it went from 100K in the first month to like 40, 50K in the second month to like 20, 30K in the third month to like 10K in the fifth month. And then I finally shook myself a little bit. I had reserves and everything, right? But I finally had to shake myself a little bit and say, hey, this isn't working. You've got to adjust. You've got to figure this out. There's nobody out there selling for you anymore. You got to go do it yourself again. And so since then, I've been making the adjustments that I need to make. All the while, I've got a 9, 11, and 13-year-old that I got to show up for every day. You know what I'm saying? So all the while, I'm like trying to architect this consultant life where I work between like 9 and 4. And then the rest of the time is for my kids and my family, Monday through Friday, starting a brand new business. And you know how well that works for new business owners. It usually doesn't. So luckily I've got some tricks up my sleeves and some skills now that I learned in the different mastermind groups that we're in, as well as I've got my experience on the sales team side. So I've been putting some things in place to be able to do just that, and that's what I'm working on now, is architecting that life so I can be there for my kids, because I've only got them for 8 more years total, but my daughter for 5 more years before, maybe she wants to go off to college, or maybe she wants to go start her own business. She keeps saying she's going to take over my business. And I'm like, you ain't me. You know what I mean? You're going to do your own thing. So we'll see.
5 more summers, man. 5 more
Yeah,
summers.
exactly.
So we talked about you growing and having the sales team organized and documented and everything, training and culture. But what I'm hearing a lot from people lately, especially these days, is they can't hire. They can't find good talent, right? Do you have
Yeah.
any tips on hiring good salespeople? Because we both know somebody that walks in, a lot of sales guys have a lot of bad habits.
Yeah.
So how do you weed them
So
out? How do you hire the right? Are you a salary, draw, commission guy? What are you?
So in my mind, there's 2 ways to hire, and I recommend different ones for every business. Obviously, if your business only gets paid once on a deal and there's no residual, I'm going to recommend hiring young guys, commission only, volume, right? Your sales program needs to be good enough that everybody that you hire puts them through a filtering process and kicks them out if they're not going to make it, because you can't waste your time. You're on commission only. Your whole company's on commission only. This is typically like a sales org, a door-to-door company. They're not seeing residuals. They're basically, if they don't sell the next month, they're done, right? And so that's where you want your volume recruiting. Now, the high-end recruiting, like y'all's business, you guys aren't just going to hire anybody off the street. It's got to be someone that has experience, that's educated a little bit, and that has the same mentality that you guys do, right? And so understanding, one of my favorite things to do is, if they have an existing team in place, at least 2 people, and these 2 people are our quintessential salespeople that we want. All right. And I know this. Okay. I'm going to use a tool called WiseHire, and everybody posts on WiseHire and posts jobs, but there's functionalities in there that work similar to a CRM, right? And so you got stages in WiseHire that you can put the candidate through, where they're basically a lead, and then they're a prospect that you guys identified. Y'all narrow down the resumes. Okay, now they have an interview, and through those stages, you can put them through testing. WiseHire has their own sales test that you can put them through and see how they score on that, as well as it has DISC testing that you can get set up. So what you do is you DISC test your top salespeople, and you see where they are on the DISC, and then you compare that to your people coming in from WiseHire. You compare that to your people coming in, and the ones that score closest to them, those are going to be the ones that are fit better for your company, your organization, or your product and what you're selling. And so that's the quality recruiting, right? And there's a lot more stuff you can do in there. You can upgrade that DISC testing to like predictive index, I think, is one of them, and there's one more that's scientifically backed. Harvard did studies on predictive index, and one more, and I'll get that to you guys. It's escaping me right now, But that's where you're really getting into, okay, I'm taking my time, I'm gonna find the right people, and then you put them through a 2 or 3 interview process as well. And so that's on the quality side. On the volume side, I am going to create a CRM for my recruiting, right? This is what I'm doing for a client right now. So we set up a go high level, right? We've got the pipelines for the people coming in. We're setting up interviews through the scheduling tool and go high level. And basically we're pulling from Instagram, we're pulling from Facebook, we're advertising directly on these social media platforms. Because what I love about social media is a lot of times, people will advertise a sales position, that you have the potential to make 70, 80, 100 grand, right? But they don't understand that it doesn't click that, hey, that's a commission only position. So when they come in, they're immediately turned off and they're out. And so when you're doing commission only, when you're wanting to hire a lot of salespeople, you've got to sell them on the position. And so some of the ways that we do that is, if we're advertising on social media and we're putting up big checks and stuff like that, we want the young people, we want the entry level people, right? If we're doing that and they click on our ad and they submit a web form because they're interested in the position, and what do they do after that or before that? They go to your page and they look at your social media, and now they look at the culture of your company. They look at the things you're doing, like giving back for Thanksgiving, and your team's handing out turkeys and groceries. They look at the things you're doing, like having fun and playing games, what I'm saying, on the sales floor, or investing in each other and training each other. It's all happening there on your page. So you're pre-selling them on the position, but you're not pre-selling them on the income or the training or anything like that. You're pre-selling them on the culture, which for young people right now is the most important thing. They wanna wake up every day, be excited to go to work because of the culture. You can actually pay somebody a lot less for a position or a sales commission if you have an amazing culture, because they want to show up to work every day and they can see themselves at a company with a career rather than just an opportunity, a temporary opportunity. So when it comes to volume recruiting, I'm not just going to use the hiring sites. I'm also going to use social media to tell a story about my company. So I get the right people in even at volume, and I can turn that up or down whenever I need to. And I'm not dependent on the hiring sites, because a lot of commission only positions, hiring sites don't like those. They'll kick you off real fast. And so you want to have control of your pipeline when it comes to new candidates. That's on the volume side.
So let's talk about when you do have a sales rep, right? And you're actually giving them a ton and ton of leads, right? That come in and they're just not performing. When do you know? When's the
Mhm.
time to cut them loose? Actually, let's backtrack that for a second. When's the time? How long does the training period last? Right? We're talking 60, 90 days,
Mhm. So this
30
is where
days.
product or service matters, right? I would say for
Mhm.
services, that training period's longer because there's more things that can happen with each different service, versus product is typically, hey, this is the product, this is what you get, this is the price. So it's easier to
Mhm.
train on, versus a service is going to take more time. So I'd say 30 days for a product, 90 days for a service, right? And it depends on the position too. Is this a six-figure position? Like legit, are you averaging six figures on your current sales team that you can advertise six figures for the position, right?
Oh man,
If
my
it's a
guys,
six figure,
my guys are making 500,000 plus right now.
yeah. And so that training period is probably 6 months.
Yeah,
It's not
to
6 months
to
before
learn
they can
to
make
learn
commission.
yeah, to learn all the products that we have and the way we
Hmm.
think, strategize. It's going to take a year to really understand the way we do
Yeah,
everything. But we tend to start them out on one service that we offer, and
exactly.
it's usually lending, right? Start them out on
Hmm.
lending. They can learn the rest along the way.
So you talked about leads earlier. So like with y'all's product, yeah, start them out on lending, but I wouldn't be handing them the fresh leads that just came in. I would be handing them the 90-day leads that if you didn't convert those customers, it's no love lost because those are 90 days old, right? And
Mhm.
so they have got to show us something on, especially in a $500,000 position. You guys seen Boiler Room, right?
Uh, yeah, I lived it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Matt
exactly.
watches it
He
every
walks
morning for
in.
breakfast. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, this is you will make $1 million here in your first year. You will make $500,000 here in your first year. You're going to go through the shit in the first 90 days. And even after that, you're going to go through some more shit. But at the end of the day, if you are willing to go through all that, you've got this amazing opportunity. Now imagine if the door-to-door company treated their opportunity like that, right? How how much more confident would their recruiting be, would their marketing be, all that good stuff. So when the salesperson first comes in, I'm gonna make them earn it. I'm gonna put them through door to door. I'm not gonna give them the marketing leads. I'm gonna give them the old stuff. Like, show me something. I know that these leads convert at 1 to 2%. So I know you're gonna have to make 98 calls today, but you're gonna get 1 or 2 deals if you make those 98 calls. Are you willing to make those 98? Because those 98 calls that you make today is going to pay you hundreds of thousands of dollars in 6 months when you've got my prime candidates in front of you and you're not fucking up the sales pitch because you've got all the experience from those 98 and you've had your teeth kicked in and you know what a good candidate looks or a good prospect looks like. You know when a whale walks through the door or jumps on the phone. And so when you look at that training period, you have to go back to the data. You have to look at the data of everybody that you have on your current sales team or your own data, right? Sometimes you're hiring your first person, so you have to use yourself as the test case. Know your numbers, know your conversion rates on 90-day leads, on brand new leads, on organic prospecting. Know all these things and know the actions that these people need to take in order to have the success you did. Now, granted, you are you, and there's a reason that you're the owner of the business or the leader in the company. So you've got to give them a curve, right? They're going to have that 1 year curve until they can get up to those numbers, right? But at the end of the day, those actionable items that if they take those actions, they will get X, Y, and Z results. As long as they follow the script, follow the plan, right? And I'm not big on scripting full sentences. I'm big on scripting structure. So I know I've got to ask these 6 discovery questions. Now, how I ask them is up to me because that's my personality, that's my style coming through. And you want to leave room for that. You don't want them to say it word for word. I know that was a big deal, back in the early in the 90s and the early 2000s, say the script word for word, but people appreciate the genuine service now. They appreciate your personality coming through. A lot of times they're coming to you from your social media or from your network, and they've already told stories about you and stuff like that. So that human connection, that me saying the sentence how I would say it, asking, what's your company doing gross per year, or asking, what are you bringing in per year? Those little changes where I'm more confident because I'm saying it my way can make that training process so much smoother, as long as you're structuring it in
No,
such
that
a
makes
way.
total sense, right? Because sales at the end of
Mhm,
the day is connecting with another human, right? So if
mhm.
you're reading a script, it's cold,
Yeah.
it's generic, right? There's no way you can connect by reading a script. Doug, let me ask you your personal opinion. When you have a sales team that has multiple products or multiple services, it's obviously depending on the skill set of that salesperson, but do you make that person sell the 10 different products or the 10 different services? Or have you found more success in creating specialists? And look, Joe's only going to sell product A, Jack is going to sell product B, and Janine is going to sell product C. What's your take on that?
I think it's more of a hybrid where they're only selling 2 or 3 products that link together in like an ascension model. At first I'm going to get the loan, and then I'm going to get, the entry level loan, then the line of credit, then the, you know, you guys know better than I do, whatever the next step is after that in terms of your business growth, right? So as long as the products make sense ascending together, then I'm going to keep one salesperson for that. But this idea that one salesperson is going to be successful selling 10 products, it is, to me, all I see is the watch dealer coming up to you going like this, which watch do you want? You know what I'm saying? And so in my mind, I want
I
the
think there was a
expert.
Jefferson's episode.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, I'm getting there. I'm getting up there in age now, so I understand the references for sure. Um, man, and that's also with the product and the service, right? If I'm selling a service, and I come to you and I'm guilty of this, right? I have a podcast partner service where we do everything for your podcast, right? Because we did 250 episodes in like a year, right? And so my team was on point with that. I was like, well, other people could use this. I'm doing 3 episodes a week. I'll just do less episodes and let them let them make more money by selling a service for podcasting, right? And then, so if I came to you and I was like, hey, I'm a sales team building expert. But by the way, if you want me to do your podcast, if you know, want me to do X, Y, and Z and W, immediately with every product that I mentioned to you, my credibility for being a sales team consultant just went down and down and down and down. And it, you know, granted, we have a relationship, so you guys know me and you know what I focus on. And this other thing's like a side hustle. But a brand new customer, a brand new prospect isn't going to understand that, you know? So I tend to focus in silos, you know, where they become the expert for that silo, you know, and if it's business financing, it's business financing. If it's tax strategy, it's tax strategy. And then that's what I love about y'all's business is y'all do the same thing. You know, you're a business advisor 100%, but you have experts in every single category that you need to have. So you're just the connection. You're the plug, and you're also the one that they go to when they have a problem or need help.
Yeah, 100%. You know, I hate when people, I'm the founder of, creator of, best-selling author of, see me on the Forbes. They come on the podcast with a list like this. I'm like, we're not reading that. It's not happening. Oh, we know these tricks, buddy. um, so yeah, man, I really like that ascension model. It's kind of like what we do now. But I think it also depends on what they're marketing for and what the lead's coming in for, right? Is what product you talk
Yeah,
about first, right?
100%.
I mean, we do two things over here, and we do them well. We have our clients. We invest in our clients. We give them access to capital, and we also give them access to other experts in the industry that can help them, right? So we
Hmm.
strategically advise them. So we do two things: we get you capital, and we strategically advise you. That's exactly what we do at Shield Advisory Group. I think the biggest thing for salespeople to overcome when they start with our organization is they don't know where to start because lending has its own ascension model, right?
Yeah,
Where with
within
the
it.
other products, everything has a caveat to it, right? Okay,
Hmm.
X and X is good, but Y is not. So we can't go here. So we have to turn to, you know, lending
Yeah,
partner B, or do we want to do this in house? We overlook it. There's a lot of little nuances, right? To train. And that's why when our software comes out, it's going to help a lot of people in a lot of different places because it's going to take the thinking out of it. Because one thing that we understand very well is salesmen are salesmen. They should be
yeah.
on the phones. They should be on social media. They should be selling. They shouldn't be
Hmm.
doing paperwork. It'll never get
Right.
done, right? They should not be doing fulfillment. It'll never get done. At the end of the day, you got to put them in the seat that fits them best, and it's sales, right? So yeah,
100%.
when I owned my brokerage firm, we started with 8 guys. We hired over 800 people, and we ended with 80 registered reps, right? The
Hmm.
reason for that is every 10 people you hire, one passes their Series 7, right?
Yeah,
And it's a grueling process. This is before you're making money, you're at least 6 to 7 months in, right? It's going to
yeah,
take 2 years before you bring home a commission check, right? But the reason people stayed was because they saw the results everybody else was having, right? So they
yeah,
grinded it out for a year, 2 years, right? Just to have the opportunity. Plus, what they were learning is it's where I learned everything, man. I barely graduated high school and learned everything on Wall Street that I know
yeah.
about business. So the opportunity, I think, is really big in what you said.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And the education is huge too. You know, so I probably, and I haven't, I've gone back through the numbers and everything and done an average, but I've easily hired over 1,500 salespeople. You know, and if I had 110 at one point, it's very similar to the numbers that you're talking about. That turnover rate's 90% plus, and
Mhm.
especially in door to door, you know, for different reasons, right? Because these people are coming in out of disparity versus coming in wanting to have this $500,000 a year position, right? And so when you look at one of the things that I used to tell them in the opportunity meetings when I had 20 people in front of me, it's like, hey, if all you do is come into this business and work here for 6 months and learn how to sell and make a couple of really big checks, you're going to be set up for the rest of your life because you are learning one of the hardest sales to make, which is taking somebody from 0 to 100% interest, enough to swipe their card, to sign on the dotted line, or to inconvenience themselves by having somebody come into their house and install a new service or product. Like, there is, in my opinion, no harder sale than that. There's bigger sales, right? But if you learn that, you're set up. You can sell anything after that, and you can follow that same structure. You can follow the same process, the same trips and tips and tricks, and apply them to any business. And that's what's beautiful about what I'm doing now is I'm taking that door-to-door sales model and I'm applying it to a high-end security company that sells to tech CEOs. I'm applying it to a car wrap company that sells to other businesses. I'm applying it to a roofing company that it's even easier because they're doing door-to-door, but they're also bringing marketing leads to a call center. They're also trying to convert those leads into in-home appointments and then selling in the home, which is what we're very good at, right? And so it's a very foundational, door-to-door is a foundational level. And to me, the only one that even compares is telemarketing, right? Because if you get told no 20 times a day in door-to-door, you get told no 100 times a day in telemarketing, And so those to me are kind of the two foundational
Man, I
sales
gotta tell you,
training.
we gotta do a follow-up to this podcast. You and I gotta fly down to San Antonio and we have to rent an Airbnb and we're gonna sit in front of the door and we're gonna have Doug Mitchell ring that doorbell. Because I gotta tell you, this must be like a geographic thing, but there are no door-to-door salespeople in New York. Because if somebody rings your doorbell,
right,
you're opening the door with a baseball bat.
Yeah. Well, I've had guns pulled on me. I've had every weapon you can think of or have ever owned pulled on
God
me
bless
before.
you.
Or my guys.
It's gotta be a skill.
It's crazy.
It's fun.
So,
is that a
all
Glock?
right.
Is that a 19? Let's talk about it.
So sales training aspect, right? So when I was building out our team, like I told you in the brokerage firm, and it was easier. Everybody was together, right?
Yeah.
We were in a giant boardroom. People were working. People were learning faster because they were next to each other all day.
Yeah.
I mean, we worked 12 to 14 hours a day, every day, 6 to 7 days a week, right?
Mhm.
Are your clients, because I know we're finding it a little difficult virtually.
Yeah.
Right. So any tips on that?
Spend the money, bring them in person, have them walk next to your top rep or your top trainer, whatever the case is. I mean, make that happen in person if you can. If you can't, then you better have a learning management system, which I know you guys are building out right now for your software, which is fantastic. The learning management system is like a back end of a CRM that houses those videos, those documents, and all those things. And you're not going to have your top rep go on there and do the training. Whoever is in your company that has an ability to teach, that's a whole nother skill set. And the only reason that me not being a top salesperson ever in my life built one of the top AT&T dealerships, and it's because I have an ability to teach. I have an ability to see somebody's script or watch somebody at a door one time. I can break down the whole thing and I can teach it to somebody else without ever doing it myself. And this is where a lot of people get iffy. Luckily, I managed hundreds of salespeople before, so I have that experience behind me. But I can see how someone with my skill set could come in and coach somebody that's way further along than they are because they have an ability to break down those processes, those systems, and turn them into training and teaching. That's a whole nother skill set, and that's why some of the best course creators in the world have never actually done the thing that they're teaching. They just know how to teach it in such a way that's palatable for anybody to get on, learn it, and go out and execute it. That, to me, that is a skill in itself. So if you don't have that person in your company, you're going to have to develop that skill. We're going to have to bring somebody in to do it for you.
I totally agree 100% with that. Yeah, sometimes the best doers are not the best teachers.
Exactly.
But then sometimes the teachers can't do it themselves. So
100%. If you find the hybrid like your boy here, you're in good shape.
Doug, we want to be respectful of your time. We've gone over a little bit, but we appreciate you. We're definitely going to have you back, man. But can you tell everybody where they can reach you again on the socials? I know you dropped it before.
Yeah, my handle is TXBIZDAD, Texas BizDad. And then my website is salesprogrambuilder.com. Basically, everything you need to find, those free courses I talked about, they're all on there and you can access them.
Awesome. Thanks, Doug. Thanks so much for being here. I have one question again before I let you run. I know I asked a lot today, but the best opening line in sales, in your opinion, is?
That's exactly why I'm here. So because when they open the door, they immediately say, "Oh, I'm not interested." That's exactly why I'm here. It immediately diffuses the objection, and then you can go on to exactly why you're here.
So for us on the phone, when we used to teach our guys, like, because we were selling stocks over the phone, right? It's not, how are you today? I'm not interested. It's, can you hear me okay? Yeah, I
Oh,
can hear
nice. There you go. Yes.
Great. The reason
You
I'm on
get
the
them to
phone with
say
you
yes.
is, that's it.
100%.
You start out with a yes. But Doug, I really enjoyed this, brother. We'll be in touch soon. And the audience, that's a wrap. We'll see you on the next episode of the Liquid Lunch Project.
Appreciate you guys.
Thank you for listening to the show. And make sure you subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend. We'll see you on the next episode of the Liquid Lunch Project.